African Americans, or people in the African diaspora who are outside Africa have decided to take this initiative. It's blacks for blacks, you know, the Black Lives Matter, because they have seen the system is against them. That's why they're doing this. Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is Eugene from Kenya. Now, this is our podcast, the first podcast we are having, and today we'll be talking about what's the fate of interracial marriages in the 21st century. Our fellow blacks think that it is a betrayal if a fellow African goes to marry a white lady or get to marry to a white man. So today we are going to discuss that. And guess what? I have special guests. Maybe you've ever seen them, maybe you've never seen them. I'm having Fred from Africa. He's also a content creator. I'm also having AfriPost. He's also a content creator. They all do content regarding Africa. So, brother, take your time.
Okay, I think Eugene has done it all. He has introduced us, and I'm Fred from Africa. I am bringing content from Africa and outside Africa too. And of course, it's a very good day to have come together as a community of content creators, because we want to discuss something that is very important. Thank you very much, bro.
Thank you again. I'm AfriPost, as we've been told. And the discussion is quite encouraging because we want to open these boundaries and have a discussion about how Africa is and the perceptions and misconceptions that people have, especially the African Americans, because we always see issues like interracial marriages and even the most common topic talked about largely, the reparations. So it is something that is worth discussion because many people are always asking, what is the opinion of Africans about these topics? And for that, we want to share this with you, and I hope you'll be joining us along as we go, and even as we bring for you many more content. I am AfriPost, as you've been told, and I give you geopolitical issues in Africa and also issues affecting African Americans who want to travel to come to Africa. So that's it. Let's get into the set.
So, brothers and sisters, today we are going to talk about what's the fate of, the black community in towards the interracial marriages, because we have a couple of people who says that it's a betrayal if, an African or people with African descent gets married to, the African, the whites. So the question is, what's your take, brother, on this matter? I'll start with Fred from Africa. Do you think it is right if, people with African descent get married to, other races? Is it something which you can validate?
Okay, let me sip my water, bro, first.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. This is water, by the way. He has given us water. So I need just tell you the truth.
I've made them just next time.
So, I think this topic of, this subject is very important that to discuss it, because first of all, we need to understand what is marriage. Because, we have got the origin of marriage. Marriage is not something that maybe you can take lightly or something like a joke. When you take someone's daughter that you want to marry him, marriage goes with the love, okay? Love is what gives back to marriage, because you cannot marry someone whom you don't love, okay? And love is something that is internally, okay? It's inside you. So I think want to marry someone, it must be maybe they love one another, or he or she has a feeling towards that person. Is someone's decision to decide whom he wants to marry, because he or she has a feeling towards that person. Okay? Now, for me to marry from another race, it doesn't mean that I don't love my race. Okay? It is something that's natural, that is godly made.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you start digging deep the origin of marriage, okay, or love, it started from Adam and Eve. Okay? So it means God created love and marriage. And love and marriage goes together. You'll be giving this person a limit, denying him that freedom of choice. Okay? Because each and every person has a freedom of choice. There's something that Eugene loves. For example, me, I love rumba music. Okay, you cannot take that away from me because it's something that I love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another guy, maybe Victor, loves reggae music. Inside him. So when an African marries from another race, to my opinion, it's not a betrayal.
Because you see, they having a problem because you see the slave trade, and there's this animosity that has always been there between them. The whites and the blacks. So if a black person goes to marry a white person, some feel like it's a betrayal. Person with African descent marries a white person, it is a betrayal because they seem to have forgotten the things that Africans, they did to Africans, because the child is innocent. It's the same with the people of this generation. They were not there when the slave trade was taking place. You understand? I don't know what you think, guys. Maybe Afripost, you can tell us.
Let me before I give Afripost, biblically, when you look at the origin of man, God made only two people. That's Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
Was there a black person or was there a white person? God only made Adam and Eve. It's through these two people that now we have all these races. Okay? It means we have one origin.
One origin.
Our origin is Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah? So it's through Adam and Eve where now we get all these races. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, I don't think it's a problem when someone marries from another race, because after all, we come from one source, that's Adam and Eve.
You see, if there was an African American, they're our brothers, and I understand that. They will tell you this, and I also know they will say this. They will tell you this. In as much as we're looking at Adam and Eve as people, they'll say that you don't know the pain that they're going through because you are African. I'm sure they'll tell you that. They'll tell you that you've stayed in Africa, you're not seeing the systemic racism in the United States. They'll tell you that. But in all, you're still right, because if a person wrongs you, maybe there's a person who calls you, African people are called booty scratchers in schools, they are being nicknamed things. So does it mean that it is everybody? It's not everybody. When you find a person, whether they're white or black, you fall in love with them, there is no problem.
There is this perception here. First of all, I agree with each of you, because there is that notion that African Americans themselves, they look at the daily sufferings they're going through, and that informs their perception right now. Because if you look at even the areas that they are allowed to live in, the inner cities where they are living, you'd realize that systemic racism has resulted in even serious industries that produce harmful chemicals are located close to settlements where African Americans are. So these harmful wastes are being directed and channeled to their residences and giving them a lot of challenges, even health-wise. So when they look at the kind of things that the white majority in the United States are subjecting them upon, then that is something that you realize that is really becoming a serious challenge to them. So if you talk to somebody who is also looking at the percentage of blacks in incarceration and then comparing it with the manner in which the whites are being treated, the cases of George Floyd, the cases of people who have been shot. It is easier to shoot a black man in the United States. So when a black man sees that you're going to marry this white girl who has enjoyed the privilege all her life, and then you're going to bring her to you, then it's like you do not recognize the suffering that other blacks have gone through. So that is also something there. But then again, in my post, I did a certain post. Because I came across a certain Professor Brian Sykes, and he was saying that when he did a DNA search on many European Americans who are there, European Americans are the whites, he noticed that there is a certain significant amount of percentage of black genes in those European Americans. And he was kind of saying that these blacks or these whites are also blacks, because when you have black gene in you, it means that you have an ancestor who was once black. So the question about marriage, I understand the perspective of an African American going through daily systemic racism.
Yes.
But then there is this perspective of realizing that we are all humans, and even if you take that aspect of doing that DNA test and checking your genes, as Professor Brian Sykes says, he wanted to ask white supremacists if he found that these white supremacists have black genes, whether they would denounce the kind of aggression that they subject to the blacks, or they will do what. But then again, you'd note that as humans and as humanity, we must be ready to embrace each other. But then, the question about the suffering that the blacks are going through still rings in everybody's mind. Look at the slavery, look at how African Americans have been degraded in terms of being shot, being arrested easily. So that is something that I believe all sides for me are right. I am not going to say that I support those who are against interracial marriages or those who are supporting that, because if you listen to each party, you will really accept that they have a point, and you can understand and you can relate with each and every point that they are pushing around. So for me, I am of the opinion that all sides are right.
It reminds me of something. There's something that Fred introduced, that's something about marriage, something about feelings. And there's an article written by Jill Scott. It's on the black men who marry white women. And there's a point that I like that he said that when a man goes to rest with someone they love, not a black or white person, but a person who does or doesn't think it's bad idea to blow the rent check on school clothes. Also, he said that they go to bed with someone who does or who doesn't think it's priority to keep the living room clean. They go to bed with someone who does or doesn't want children. In other words, they go to bed with an individual who, in bracket, hopefully, has very specific idea about their life that go beyond whether the revolution will be televisionized or not. What I'm saying is this. You love someone, okay? This person, for him, for the Jill Scott, the way he wrote this down, let me just break it down. A man goes in bed with the person they love. A man goes in bed with the person they trust, okay? We don't have something to do with race. It can be black or white, okay? Someone will end up with a person who doesn't want children. Someone will end up with a person who loves children. Someone will end up with a person who doesn't love family. Someone will end up with a person who loves family. This doesn't have race. It is in the psychology of maybe women, it's in the psychology of men. So I think it can't be debunked that at the end of the day, I might be, for example, if I were an African American today, I've spotted a white lady, maybe we've dated, maybe we are, courtship thing, and then I fell in love with him. And then I'm having my African American sisters or brothers or friends that I have. And sincerely, my feelings is towards this person. Tell me, will I squander my feelings for the sake of what people think that I'm betraying them? What I believe is right is, if you maintain your identity and you stay like you're an African, that it's all. Yeah, because it's the identity you don't want to lose, because people feel like you're being betrayed because you start mixing things. And I also think that this is to our advantage. Since we are having systemic racism in the United States, I know not all African Americans or not all Africans in the diaspora can come to Africa because of one or two reasons. Maybe it might be economic, social, or other political things. But what if we try mix? Don't you think it will kill this thing called systemic racism if we mix a black marries a white person? So there will be nothing like, you are black, you are white, there will be not that animosity. I tend to think it in that way.
I think, okay, I also agree with you, because when you look at South Africa, when during the apartheid, okay, you all understand what happened to the black majority in South Africa, okay? They went through a lot. Remember when a policy was initiated that when a black is found maybe having any affair with a white, you are arrested and jailed, okay? Or you are killed, okay? So I think it's a kind of respect also that right now Africans or black community are allowed to marry from any corner of the world they want. Any person they choose to marry, they are free to marry, okay? So what I'm trying to say is this. It's not bad to marry from another race. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, it's a kind of honor that Africans are getting back. Okay. Because you remember during the apartheid, Africans had their own. The South Africans, the black majority, but then they were the majority. There were shops that were specifically for them. There were areas that they were not allowed to go. Okay. Only whites were allowed to go there because blacks were seen like nobody. Okay, but if right now I can marry from that race, okay, and have children with them, I think this will kill that thing we call
discrimination.
It will kill that because we will be 50-50. It will be equal here because I have your sister.
You've married a white person.
A white person. Not your sister. I don't have a black and a white sister. Maybe my hand. You mistaken my hand. Okay, I was trying to point and call you. Okay. So that's. But then you've confused me. But
it's understandable.
So according to me, I don't think it's bad to marry from the white people. In fact, it's a kind of respect and honor that we're now getting back after that long torture that we've gone through.
For me, you know, I started this conversation by being on the middle.
You have to understand.
Okay, I will, but I was that way to try and drive some points home because you needed to understand both sides better. If you look at the manner in which the whites have behaved and the manner in which blacks are behaving. For me, I look at it like there are issues that have been created by the system to ensure that people remain in continuous antagonism and continuous differences exist. But in real sense, if the kind of service you get, let's say from even the government, was equal to everybody, there would be no issue about race. For instance, Fred talked about the issue of segregation during the apartheid in South Africa. The reason why people felt they're different is because they were restricted from going somewhere and others were allowed. And some were allowed to do other things, others were not allowed to do other things. So this is the thing that makes you think that if the other person is allowed to enjoy certain things, and me, I'm not allowed to enjoy that just because of the color of my skin, then it means there is something in this skin that is worth talking about. So it is something that has been created systematically, and that is why you realize that even the person or the blacks who have the opinion that marrying whites is something that like a betrayal to their community, you can understand where they're coming from. I understand. It is something that has been instilled in them for many years. And the kind of privileges that others are enjoying is something that you cannot talk about here. But I want to say this. On the question of marriage, I believe, first of all, you do not know whom you will fall in love with tomorrow. And love is the one that will guide you. So if you find that you like the Caucasians, then that is it for you. If you like the chocolate or the dark skinned, like the ones you have here, like in Congo, the glittering black shiny skin, then you can have that. Because even here in Africa, you are here and you know there are girls who are light skinned and there are those who are dark as I am. you'd note that there are those who say that this girl is the one I want. So it is all about preferences. I do not want us to put it to a point where you say that now it is a crime to try to marry from people who have this color or marry from people who have this color. But one thing that is here that I want to also emphasize, the question about doing away with the differences. Because for how long will blacks cry about racism and systemic racism? I subscribe to one thing here, and that is the notion that has been pushed around by Candace Owens. Candace Owens has been talking about the marginalization of the African American's brain.
So you've watched that show?
Yeah, I've watched it. So you realize that she says that the question about Black Lives Matter, the question about championing for black issues, is just a tool that politicians are using to prey on naive black people. For instance, right now, blacks are largely in the Democratic Party. Most of them are Democrats. You know, that is where also Barack Obama came from and everything. They say that the Democrats have gotten into the heads of African Americans and preached to them the question about racism to an extent that they do not want to walk past what they are, but they want to just lean on the question of racism, yet this racism thing is only benefiting the political class. So for me, I believe that we must understand that we are all humanity, and we must all denounce the issues about racial discrimination that we have and embrace each other and forget about the differences, because that is the only way we can start forgiving each other and live towards a better future. Because we are raising a new generation who should not be designed in a certain way or marooned to think that we are all different. But I want us to have an opinion where all of us are one thing and you can do whatever it is with anybody. So that is it from me.
I also think there's a point you've raised that, you know, African Americans are being put in a situation where they only focus on racism and they don't see the important aspects. Like I think you try to say maybe trying to work on the economic side of the things, you know. So historically, you realize that it's the African Americans who made the United States, and they were robbed. You understand? They were robbed their hard work. So on the flip side, there's a point I might not agree with you. On the flip side, you see, you can't keep quiet when something wrong is happening in your neighborhood. At least, for example, a person is being robbed on the other side. If you have some clubs, if you have some, you know, machetes, you'll carry them and try to go help your neighbor. So I think that's the same way. African Americans, or people in the African diaspora who are outside Africa, have decided to take this initiative. It's blacks for blacks, you know, the Black Lives Matter, because they have seen the system is against them. That's why they're doing this. And also, people always say this, and it's something that a lot of people say, you know, Black Americans or African Americans are complaining that, you know, racism, they're complaining that, you know what, and also some people decided to compare them with Africans, saying that, you know, African Americans are lazy. Africans are coming in the United States and they are taking their jobs, they're taking their wives, you see. So I also believe that it is the system which is playing Africans, you know, the black community. Because if a person comes and says that, you know, African Americans, you are lazy, you know, Africans are coming from Africa and coming, they're taking your wives, they're taking opportunity. So there is that animosity which will be created between Africans amongst themselves. But the discussion wasn't that. The discussion was if we will marry, if a person from the black community will marry another person, maybe another race, maybe Asian, maybe white, but the conflict here is between the blacks and whites, which are in the United States. Our geography is within the United States. So it's true that they should fight, and also the government and the media is trying to make Africans fight and confuse them. But also, I want to tell you that do not believe that African Americans really rely on racism, because you understand that even if it's for you, it was somebody is trying to provoke you. Somebody is trying to provoke you. You'll try to speak. You either take them to the chief, you either take them to police, and if there is no action, you take action yourself. So it's same with African Americans. They are living in a place where they are trying to talk to the system. The system is not listening to them. That's why there is even a large disparity of income when it comes to the whites and the blacks. It's a big disparity because they're trying to go to the system. They're telling them, no, they're doing this to us. It's not right. They're not hearing them because they have to complain. And I don't believe that African Americans are lazy because 400 years ago, when they were taken from Ghana, from Lengwina Castle and other parts of Africa, they went strictly to the ports of the United States in the farms, in the plantations, and they worked for them. They built the place until we have it right now, the United States that we see today. The United States that you see today is because of the African Americans. 90% of it is made because of African Americans. So if we say that African Americans, they have achieved a lot of things, but it is the system which is trying to, confuse us as Africans. That's why we also have diaspora wars. The fight is not only in US, the fight is also in Africa.
I get it, I get it.
Okay, all this game that we see in the social media, some like 90% of it are not true. Okay, because as you just say that the media is playing its role here. Let's understand that the West media is being paid for that.
Yeah,
is being paid to bring this confusion between the Africans and the African Americans. That's why we have this this notion of that Africans hate African Americans, African Americans hate Africans. But in real sense, it is not true. If you look at the history of African Americans, they are the people who built US, the US that you see today.
Yes.
It's their energy that built this US.
Through blood and sweat.
Through blood and sweat.
Yes.
Okay? By that time, did we not have white people? How comes today the blacks are lazy people?
Yeah.
How comes? And the people who gave the US structure that we see today, okay? That White House that you see, that's the work of black people. They're the people who build this. So, African Americans are not lazy people. All these things, this is system.
Yeah. I can imagine friend going to the United States and I want you.
This is just a system and it's high time that the government of America restructure this system and recognize the African Americans. There are also people just like that white guy somewhere. It's the same blood that flows through a black person, is the same blood that flows through a white guy.
Yeah.
Okay? So we are all equal, and the government of America, of you, United States of America, it's high time that they restructure this system and give African Americans the respect, okay, that they deserve.
Yeah.
Because it is their right.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
It's not fair.
It's not fair. Yeah.
So I hear you, I hear what you're trying to put across, but I feel like I was misunderstood to some extent.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not talking against
Nobody was against you. Nobody misunderstood you. The thing is, you see, you said very well. You said very well that it's the system which is trying to fight these people, and it's an animosity which should not be there.
Why I'm saying that I've been misunderstood is the issue about talking about African Americans as being lazy. That is not it.
Yes.
I was saying that there is a political class that has over-championed this issue of Black Lives Matter to the extent that it is overshadowing other things that should be done. You realize that those Democrats, one thing that happens with them is that they are overhyping the racial discrimination and not making the necessary contribution to the black communities to empower the black community. For instance, you're talking about disparity in terms of education system.
Yeah.
If the education system in white neighborhoods is better, why can't the black or the Democrat politicians come and empower blacks by building better schools or ensuring that the number of children registered to schools are increased so that we don't have children dropping out of school, such kind of things. So I was saying that the problem of, let's say, disparity is not about talking about that disparity, but finding a solution to address it. So that is why I blame this on the politicians and not on the black Americans.
Yeah.
Because it's not them hyping it. It is the politicians who are using it.
They are funding it.
Funding it and ensuring that that difference exists, so that when it comes to the time of elections, the blacks will see that we are truly disadvantaged in this game, and therefore we must stand with these people. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
so it's not like I'm going and saying that African Americans are not working, they are not fighting for their right. No, they're at everybody. It's not like what Jesus said, that if he slaps you on the right, you turn the right cheek and be hit. So that is it. That is what I was trying to say, that the racial issue has been overhyped by politicians to confuse even young people, to an extent that making serious decisions of their lives, like the person you want to marry, is now being debated as a racial issue.
So that even marriage is being politicized.
That is what I was trying to say, because when you look at it, all these things, all the differences that we have, be it religion, be it in terms of race, all of these are political issues. There is nothing that is an issue that if people can always coexist together, a white person, a white girl, a white man, what is it that can make them be different? All of these people can marry, they have married before, it's not like it's the first time it's going to happen, and they have kids, those kids have never complained of feeling in a different way. So for me, that issue remains as it is.
So those folks who feel like they are betrayed, the black folks who feels like they are betrayed, you know, getting someone to marry. And I think marriage should not be politicized. Marriage should not be, you know, we should not put racial things into marriage. Because at the end of the day, I think it's somebody how they feel. So listen to something I found about also the article that I had read for you before. I'm a black dude hooked up with a black woman, but I don't sleep with black people. Didn't take my son to tennis lessons this week. Black people didn't support me while I was trying to make it in writing. Black people didn't help me pay my rent. An individual with our own specific hopes, dreams and problems did these things to me. It doesn't have a color. You see?
I like the article, by the way.
Yeah, because if it's human being, we are brothers here today, okay? I have a problem. Maybe you might not come, you might not come. Maybe another person from another tribe will come and help me. So the question should not be about the blacks or the whites. We see people as people. We see people beyond their color. And if we stop politicizing marriage, then I think interracial marriages will go to an end. So guys, tell us in the comment section, do you think you as a black folk, or you as a person who is watching this, will you marry a white person? I'm talking to people from the black community, like black folks from the United States, from Canada, from United Kingdom, or any African in the diaspora. So you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. And as I've said, this is my brother Fred from Africa. This is my brother AfriPost. You should also check their channel. They're doing great things there. And I'll leave the links in my description and you'll find them. I'll tag them along. So after watching this, go and see their content. And I'm sure that you'll learn something from it. Of course, this is Eugene, the African Kid. I'll be changing my name from Eugene from Kenya due to some reasons. So this is Eugene, the African Kid. And we'll be meeting every Wednesday for the Three Brothers podcast show. That's how we'll name it, but it's under the courtesy of our channels. So you expect it in their channel, you expect it on their channel, and also in my channel. So guys, peace, love, and harmony. Maybe my brothers can tell you something before we end up.
Okay, thank you guys. We've had a very fruitful show. And the only message that I can leave you with is that love is an inbuilt thing and it's a choice. You can marry from whatever corner of the world that you feel like marrying. You're free to marry anyone. It's not a betrayal to marry a Chinese or a white guy or a black guy, because after all we are all human and we have feelings.
The decision is always about what is good for you. If you find that marrying a black person makes you feel more black, makes you feel more protected in your community, then do it. If you feel like a white person will be your best soulmate, have a go at it. So it's not about having fights, it's not about having or creating differences. It's about enjoying and having a greater session for you and yourself. So that's it from me. Please remember to hit us in our channels. You'll get best contents also from those areas as we work together to ensure that this podcast gives you some of the best content and discussions that we have on African American issues and all issues affecting our world as it is. Thank you. Let's meet in our next video.
Remember, this is the 3 African brothers under different channels. So today we've aired it on Eugene the African Kid. Tomorrow, maybe the other day, we'll air it from Fred from Africa and also to the AfriPost. So you guys expect this and see you in the next video. I always say peace, love and harmony. Salute.